Hello, it's Reija and welcome to another Hogwarts House manga recommendations video. This is the very last one. It's time for the best house, just kidding, but it's time for my house, which is Hufflepuff. And I have always associated Hufflepuff with community and friendships. Hufflepuffs are the kind of people who tend to put others ahead of themselves, and they find value in helping other people. They find value in community organized projects. They find value in things like volunteering. For Hufflepuffs is all about like the joy of being in a community and being a member of a community. For example, fandom related things I find are very closely associated for me as Hufflepuff traits, as well as that sort of empathy. And I'm not saying that other houses can't be empathetic, I'm just saying that Hufflepuffs kind of are empathetic, sometimes to the detriment of their own well-being, you know? So what I decided to go with for these recommendations were series with a very central theme of friendship and community, of loyalty and of sort of hard work. Because I find that those are the kinds of themes that would suit Hufflepuffs very well. So without further ado, let's get started. The first series that I want to recommend to Hufflepuffs is Jellyfish Princess by Akiko Higashimura. This series centers around a group of women in their mid-20s to early 30s, and this is about a girl called Tsukimi who moves to Tokyo, and she goes to live in this boarding house where there live only women, and basically all of these women are some type of geek or another. They are all very nerdy, they are all very socially awkward, and they all have this disproportionate fear of men especially, but also of people who they perceive to be socially on a higher tier as themselves. And Tsukimi has this obsession with jellyfishes, but she also loves fashion, but she is not a very fashionable person herself. And one day she meets this boy called Kuranosuke, but when she meets him, he is dressed as a girl. And they form this friendship, and when the boarding house that Tsukimi is living in, the boarding house she's living in is basically auctioned off and is in a danger of being demolished from the way of other more lucrative real estate projects, the women living in the house decide to start a fashion brand in order to save their home. And in the midst of all this, they form a close-knit community. They find their passions towards different things in life. They become less socially awkward, and it's just an all-around riot. This is such a fun series, so much fun, and I especially like it because it is geared towards a slightly older audience, so it's a manga that is targeted towards women, but it's not like a teenage drama. It's very much about, you know, learning to live as an adult, especially in a world which may not necessarily gel with the type of person you are. And it's just about becoming a fully fleshed member of the society, and also living your own truth, and I just love this series and I would highly recommend it to Hufflepuffs. Then for something slightly different, I want to recommend 20th Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa. This is a science fiction dystopia and a sort of science fiction thriller about this, basically a fascist regime takes over Japan and takes over the world. This regime is inspired by this old story invented by a core group of friends, and basically when these friends were young kids, they invented this elaborate plan how to take over the world and then save the world. And as these friends have grown up and become adults, they find out that this mysterious organization is basically bringing their childhood plan to life, and they must try to stop it. And it's all about these sort of disillusioned adults finding strength in their friendship and finding reasons to live again and reasons to believe in each other and believe in themselves again. And their friendship is at the front and center of this story, and it is what keeps them going, it is what makes them move forward and what makes them strive to be better people. And I would highly recommend this series. It is sometimes very sinister, sometimes very heartwarming, and always packs an impact and has interesting twists. And if you're looking for a science fiction manga, this is a good one. And what would be a better representation of a core group of friends than Sailor Moon by Naoko Takeuchi? This is a series about Usagi Tsukino, who one day finds out that she is in fact a Sailor Scout, a protector of Earth and representative of the moon. And she teams up with this magical cat called Luna, and they start defeating forces of evil who are bent on destroying the world. And as they are doing so, they meet up other Sailor Scouts who are aligned with other planets, and they form this tight-knit group of friends, and they all are different, they all represent different kinds of ways to be a woman, and they are all sort of complementing each other. Usagi is kind of a crybaby, she's very sensitive and she's also kind of lazy. Then there's Rei, who is very sort of hardworking and also temperamental. And then there's Ami, who is very smart and she's basically a genius. And then there's Makoto, Sailor Jupiter, who is my favorite of the inner Sailor Scouts, who basically can suplex anyone and is very athletic and has like proficiency in martial arts. And then there's Sailor Venus, who is just an all-around badass and also has a magical cat. And I just think that this is a very classic manga series that holds up well even today. This was written and drawn in the 90s, and it has spawned like 2 different adaptations, numerous movies, musicals, live action movies, like you name it. And it still holds up today. It has queer characters, it has themes of friendship, it has themes of, you know, sticking up for what you believe is right, and themes of loyalty, and also just themes of striving to be a better person. Usagi is one of those characters who has a really awesome character development throughout the series. Throughout the series, he learns to be a more mature person and learns to put others before herself and become less self-absorbed, and that is beautiful to watch. And yeah, I can't recommend Sailor Moon highly enough. And then I would like to recommend Antique Bakery by Fumi Yoshinaga. This is a 4-volume series centering around a bakery that is started by this man who actually hates sweets. But he starts this bakery, and then when he is looking for a chef, pastry chef, the person who he ends up hiring is his old classmate, who he used to bully because this classmate was gay. And they strike up this relationship where they are trying to sort of heal through old wounds. And during all of this, they are also joined by the bakery's owner's bodyguard and childhood friend, and also an ex-boxer who wants to become a pastry chef himself. And it's all about these unlikely people becoming friends, healing past old trauma, and sort of finding their path in life. And it's so good. It has a very good representation, in my opinion, of a balanced queer character, and it deals with what it's like to be a target of homophobia, but it also is not about the homophobia. It's about healing. It's about being able to move past that trauma, if not forgive, you know? And I think that's a very valuable take too. And there's also an underlying mystery of why the bakery owner hates sweets and why he decided to establish this bakery in the first place, which is also very good. But at the center of this story is the friendship between these 4 people, and I think it is marvelously written, and I highly recommend this series. It is very short, it is sweet, and there's also a Korean movie adaptation, which is also very good. So yeah, highly recommend this one. And my very final recommendation for Hufflepuffs is Haikyuu by Haruichi Furudate. And this is a sports manga about volleyball centering around a high schooler named Hinata Shoyo, who had an interesting meeting with rivaling schools' volleyball prodigy when he was in middle school. He basically took a beating in the volleyball court and decided that one day he was gonna beat this person. And what happens is that he ends up on the same team with said person when he enters high school. So it's a subversion on the usual rivalry trope. And I love that. This is all about friendships and striving to be better, and all about community. And the thing is that sometimes with sports mangas there are these huge rivalries between teams, and it's almost sort of comically villainous the way the teams are represented. But in Haikyuu, all of the teams, basically it's one big family. Like, even when they lose against each other or another team wins, there's this friendship and this sort of feeling of community that emerges. And all these teams are there to make the others better. It's about sportsmanship, and that is actually very rare in sports manga, that feeling of sportsmanship, and that these petty rivalries are always last on the priority list when it comes to just respecting the other teams and respecting their craft. And the friendships in this manga are all very well developed and written, and there's like real awesome character work. Like Hinata at some point is very sort of self-absorbed by his own physical talents, and he is like brought down a bit by other members because he is not like super skilled in the actual sport. He just has a lot of like physical ability, and I like that. I like that even though the main character is sort of very rambunctious and sort of self-absorbed, there's this sort of straight man element in people kind of like being like, okay, just calm down a bit. And yeah, this is one of the better sports mangas in my opinion. Like it feels human. It doesn't feel like everyone has this super awesome move and gimmicky like say Prince of Tennis does. It feels human. It feels authentic to the human experience, and it's more about the characters and character interactions than it is about the actual sport, which I love. So I would highly recommend Haikyuu. And there you have it. Those were all the manga recommendations I have for House Hufflepuff. If you have missed all the previous installments in this series, I will leave them linked down in the description, so be sure to check them out. And I will see you in another video very soon. Bye bye!